you, Taylor, so just give me 1 minute. Looks like Mr. Bogle did get on.
Yeah, John is muted. Okay, there he is. All right, board, thank you for joining in the virtual meeting for the airport board regular meeting on April 20th, 2020. I'll call the meeting to order at 7:05 p.m. And we'll move right along to the first item on the agenda, which is approval of corrections of minutes, regular meeting March 16th, 2020. I've reviewed the minutes. I'd entertain a motion to approve or correct any of the minutes as you have seen in the packet.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Need a voice vote. Shipman?
Approved. Yes.
Francis?
Approved, yes.
McKay?
Yes.
Bogle?
Yes.
And Roden?
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Now, moving on to the second item, the chairman's report. I've got quite a few items to go over with you guys. I'll first start out with the annual inspection that was scheduled for April 6th by the Corps of Engineers. They have postponed that inspection indefinitely. They did state that they don't know if they'll get out this year at all, but that was obviously due to the COVID-19, the pandemic that's going on. They've suspended most of their inspections that they do, and Wagoner Airport was included in those suspensions. The next thing to bring to the board's attention is the PAPI project. The project did start on April 13th. It will run for 2 14-day phases, totaling 28 days of construction time. Phase 1 started, they just completed their 7th day. The runway will be closed until April 27th, which is next Monday. Phase 2 is scheduled to begin immediately after Phase 1. The runway will be open, but a NOTAM is going to be scheduled to be sent out to all flyers for notice that equipment is nearby. So after the 27th, if all goes well with the construction, the runway will be back open. The reports that I've received today and been receiving indicate that the project is moving smoothly. And so far, there are no delays expected. And obviously, we always have to deal with weather during these times or this time of year. But if the weather stays good, we should see the construction completed, hopefully within that 28-day period. The next is the CARES Act, as James had mentioned. I sat on 2 conference calls last week related to the CARES Act, and that's the $2 billion package that Congress approved a couple weeks ago. Part of that package does include funds distributed to airports across the country. We fall into a pool of about $100 million that was distributed to airports based on the size and function of the airport. Our portion that we are eligible for is $30,000. And that process is a grant process through the FAA. We just have to submit a grant application. They're going to try to streamline that as much as possible. The funds are intended for operational purposes. However, construction projects can be included. And if you do a construction project, we do have to go through a lengthier process. And we have to meet some federal guidelines for that, but it's not that unusual, and it wouldn't be unexpected for us to do that. They probably wouldn't prioritize those as much as the operational cost grants, but you can do construction projects with the funds. It does open the door for a lot of options for the money, but given the uncertainties for the budget throughout this pandemic, the city has not explored any immediate uses for those funds. I think it'd be prudent for us to take a look at the budget going forward, closer probably to June, and as we get to July, setting that budget up to figure out where those funds are needed. And one other note, about the rev or the funds is they can only be used for funds that you use for revenue purposes via the FAA's guidelines. So you can only use them for airport purposes. It can't be put into the city's general fund to pay HR salary or somebody else's. It has to be used for airport functions. And we've got to show that on the grant application. I do want to make the statement that ultimately is the council's discretion to use those funds in the projects or operations at the airport, but I would like this board's input at future meetings. So with that being said, I'm not going to get into details of where those funds might go, but I would like the board's input as we move forward through this time.
So you're asking for input now?
No, not right now. I would like to really, if you do have any comments, maybe give me a call tomorrow and we can have those discussions. But for this meeting, I'd just kind of like to give you guys an update on the amount of funds that are out there and let you know that I would like the board to have input at future meetings.
Okay, I have input. Can you try to call me tomorrow? Because I'm easier to catch than you are.
You betcha, Shipman. I will definitely do that. The last thing that I'd like to make in my chairman's report is the terms that each of you have. April is the time that everybody was appointed last year. 2 members have a 1-year term, 2 members have a 2-year term, and 1 member has a 3-year. Mike Shipman and Stephen Roden have a 1-year term. Josh Bogle and MT Francis have a 2, and Vicky, you have a 3-year term. And those started in April 2019. So Mike and Stephen, your terms are expiring after this month or until someone is appointed for replacement. Those appointments are made by the mayor and confirmed by the council. I believe the mayor will speak about that in his report later on in the agenda.
Okay.
That's all I have for the chairman's report. If you have specific questions for me about any of those items, I'd be happy to entertain them. Hearing no questions, I'll move on to item number 3, discussion and possible action to elect vice chairman to the City of Wagoner Airport Board. As I stated, April was when we kind of re-established this board, and April is the time set in our code of ordinances to elect a vice chairman of the board. Duties include really conducting the board meetings when the chairman is absent. And currently, MT Francis sits as the vice chairman. I would entertain any discussion and recommendation on the new vice chair.
I would recommend we just go ahead and keep it as MT if that's all right with everybody else. I would second that.
It's fine with Mike Shipman.
Mr. Bogle, was that a motion?
That was more discussion. I just wanted to make sure that was okay with MT. Is he here?
Yes, sir. Yeah, it's fine with me, and thanks. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I'll make that motion as long as everybody's okay with that.
I'll
second it.
I've got a motion and a second. I believe Roden had the second. We'll do roll call. Shipman?
Yes.
Francis?
Yes.
McKay?
Yes.
Bogle?
Yes.
And Roden?
Yes.
Motion is approved. Moving on to item number 4, discussion and possible action to elect a secretary to the City of Wagoner Airport Board. This position can be filled by a non-board member. Rhonda has done an exceptional job as the secretary of the airport board. I have spoken with her, and she said that she would be willing to participate with us for 1 more year at least. And so my recommendation would be to keep Rhonda as the secretary. If there's any further discussion, I'd be happy to hear it.
I make a motion to renominate Rhonda Hash.
I'll second.
We'll do a roll call. Shipman,
Yes.
Francis,
Yes.
McKay,
Yes.
Bogle,
Yes.
Roden.
Yes.
Motion passes. Moving on to item number 5, discussion of possible action to recommend to the city council the sublease agreements for hangar owners and tenants. You should have an updated lease agreement. The changes that were made were for the timing of construction after a lease has been agreed upon by the tenant. And you can find that on page 6, section 6.7, vacant lot, hangar construction timing is the title of that section. I'm not going to read the entire section, just hit some of the highlights. So basically, it relies heavily on the city's currently adopted building code for construction timing, but it does impose a timeline to apply for and receive a building permit, which in that time frame is 120 days. So once an applicant files for a lease agreement or comes to a signature on the lease agreement, they have 120 days to apply for and receive a building permit. And at that point, the timing of that construction falls into our building permit process, which is adopted by the city council, and it's worded to be the currently adopted. So we're not just putting right now we have 2015 code. In 2021, we may, or in 2020, we may adopt the 2019 code. So it should, that part of the code or of this lease shouldn't have to be updated. It's just going to be in response to the currently adopted one. I think that's going to satisfy what we were looking for on that. Just for information purposes for the board, once a permit is pulled, that permit applicant has 180 days to start the project, and then they will have an additional 180 days to complete the construction or show progress of the construction. So that was really, I think, the last thing to button this lease up. One thing that I would like to make a comment on is, as we're going through the motions, the actual motions of this, last month, the board voted to set the lease at $250 per hangar. I think the way that the lease reads should state $115 per lot rather than hangar. That way, it's a little bit more cohesive. So if there are any questions about this particular part of the lease, I'm open to questions.
So it is $215 per lot, correct?
That would be what I'm requesting the motion to be tonight to correct that. It was per hangar, but it needs to read per lot.
Okay. I do have one additional comment, and it may or may not matter, but on page 4, section 5.2, prohibited uses, and it basically says prohibited activities include commercial activities involving manufacture, commercial storage, or the sale of goods and services conducted in or from leased premises. What about down the road? If for some reason the city wants to have some individual, some company come in and like a retail FBO, those kind of things, I guess that can be changed down the road. It's not really, doesn't matter right now, but it say 2 years, 3 years, I guess we can always change the lease. Is that true?
Yeah, we can absolutely change the lease on a regular basis if those items occur. I think the portion that was left out of your reading of the statement was this last part, which was for personal storage of goods that are not aviation
Okay.
related. So,
Yes, okay.
you know,
So the city.
you can read between the lines there.
Okay, so say 2 years, 5 years, whenever, the city could do a separate lease for that individual. Is that true or something like that? I'm just, don't want to make sure we're locking everybody out.
Right. I think technically you could say that these could possibly be negotiated on a hangar by hangar basis, but if that were the case, I would feel comfortable if the board reviewed that and the council make approval on that if the
Okay.
lease was changed in any way.
That's the only thing I see out of all this. So, and I'm sorry I didn't catch that, a few months ago.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Mike. Any other questions?
Are you ready for a motion?
No, wait a minute.
Yes,
Before
sir.
we make a motion, wait, MT, wait a minute. A week ago, I sent an email regarding the $1 million liability policy on the airport. Taylor, did you get a chance to review that?
I don't believe I did. I don't remember if I got that email, Mike.
Oh, okay.
I will
Okay.
I will check it. Yeah, I'll check that in the morning.
Check it and get back with me on that tomorrow. So
Okay.
that's all I have.
Thank you, Mike.
If there's no other discussion, I would make a motion to approve and submit to the council for approval the sublease agreement by and between the city of Wagoner and the individual hangar owners.
I'll second that.
I just have one comment, and that is there's a few housekeeping items that need to be addressed in terms of just tense, subject, verb, that kind of thing. So I don't have any problem passing it, voting for it, but I do want to clean up some of the small little grammatical errors.
I think we can do that
Good.
after
That's
the
all I
meeting,
care.
and I'll
Good.
yeah, I'll give you a call tomorrow and
Yeah,
we can
it's
clear any of that up. And as long as
strictly
it doesn't change the
Good,
the merit of the lease,
Right,
I feel
right.
comfortable doing that.
good.
Do we have a second?
Yes,
We did.
Yes, Bogle
Okay.
seconded.
Vogel was the second.
Okay. Before I go to the voice vote, I don't want to leave this out. Last meeting we had a July implementation date. I did kind of put that off with everything going on and didn't contact anybody. But now, if this is approved, I think I'm still going to try to hit that July date. So it'll be quite a bit of work over the next 10 weeks or so. But I think it's still doable. So that would be the time frame that this would be implemented and brought to council before July. So with that statement, I will call for roll call. And Shipman,
Yes.
Francis,
Yes.
McKay,
Yes,
Bogle,
Yes.
Roden.
Yes.
All right, motion passes. Moving on to item number 6, the mayor's report. Mayor?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. As you had said earlier, last year, first off, I would like to thank all 5 members, Mr. Shipman, Mr. Roden, Mr. Francis, Mr. Vogel, and Ms. McKay, for serving on this board. We've covered a lot of ground in this last 12 months, and the success has been greatly due to leadership by Mr. Tannehill, but most certainly the board. Very, very deep and thorough discussions, and especially on the item that you just recommended to go to council. So, last year on April 1st, we appointed Mr. Shipman and Mr. Roden as one term, Mr. Francis and Mr. Bogle as one term, to city council. And then on April 15th, we appointed Vicky McKay. I'd like to keep the continuity of the board where we have two members of the flying club associated with the airport, and I have two counselors on there, and then one public member at large that has no dog in this hunt, as we would say. So at this time, I would like to ask Mr. Shipman. I do know that Mr. Shipman, you had said at one time you might want to step down after your terms on the board, and if you had a recommendation for anyone else, or I do know Mr. Stiles that came there, and he is now the club president. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So, yeah,
And
I would like to hear your thoughts, Mr. Shipman, if you wouldn't mind.
well, my thoughts are, as most of the airport members are aware of, at my age, I'm trying to streamline things. And, you know, I've been actively involved, you know, for the last 12 years with the Wagoner Flying Club. And I am wanting to step down from the city board. However, I really think that somebody like James Stiles needs to fill my shoes. Somebody that is capable of, you know, the day-to-day activities, you know, doesn't have an outside job. James is there on a daily basis and has done a wonderful job, you know, for years. And, you know, MT and I are kind of in the same boat. You know, we just, it just needs to be filled by somebody that's real active with the flying club. And I am willing to step down, and I would like James Stiles to fill those shoes.
Okay. Mr. Stiles, I'll ask you, do you have any comment this time on that?
No, I don't. I appreciate, you know, Mike's confidence in my ability, and if I can serve the board in any means whatsoever in his capacity or other, I'd be pleased to do so.
Okay. Is there any other recommendations that from that side? I don't know the airport board members. I do know that Mr. Shipman highly recommends you, so would like to maybe set an appointment time with you. I do have your contact information. Just kind of discuss some things and take that in consideration. Does anyone else have any other? If not, I'm going to talk to Mr. Roden. Mr. Roden, you've served for 1 year. I definitely appreciate your time. Would you like to continue, or would you like for me to consider maybe someone else from the council on your position?
I would love to continue on the board. I feel like we're just now getting a good roll and a good continuity of it.
Okay. All right. I will try to make a meeting. Mr. Shipman, do you need to be in that meeting with James and I? Just
Not necessarily, unless you want me to be.
Mr. Stiles, do you need Mr. Shipman there? If it'd be easier, we could probably just maybe, I could just reach out to you, and you and I could meet and discuss a few items that way.
Yeah, no,
Okay. We have a city council meeting coming up in a couple of weeks.
you and I would be fine. I don't.
Okay. All right. Well, and I would like to continue on after that. So what we have now, the appointees for this year would be a 3-year term. So these terms would last until 2023. And I'd also like to say, I do know Mr. Tannehill's been doing a lot of research with the FAA and with all of the grant applications that are out there. And him and I have discussed a few things, like leave it up to the board's input. Like he said, maybe discuss that next month, Mr. Tannehill. Is that kind of what you're thinking? Probably have it maybe as an agenda item for discussion.
Yeah, I think we'd have a better idea. I think, well, just generally speaking, the city's going to have a better idea where the financials are for next month. So I think we would have a better platform for discussion for this board.
Okay.
Next month.
All right. Thank you.
So I do have an additional comment.
Yes, sir.
I will continue. You know, as you are aware of, I have been working on this $1 million liability policy for the airport tenants. I will continue to be involved in that until that is nailed down, which, should be within the next, I would suspect, 2 to 3 weeks. And I will be available, for anybody's questions, comments, or suggestions, as I have been in the years past. I'm not going by the wayside. I'll still be there if anybody has any kind of questions.
Well, we would hope, Mr. Shipman, that you're not going by the wayside because you've been a great asset to keeping this.
Well, thanks.
board open.
No, I'm not going by the wayside. I'm just trying to streamline my lifestyle.
Totally understand. Mr. Chairman, that is all I have for my report.
Thank you, Mayor. The next item is item number 7, unscheduled public appearances on the agenda. I did post any unscheduled speakers to contact me prior to noon today. I've received no emails or communication from any of the public to speak this evening. So I will move along to item number 8, adjournment. And we'll do a voice vote on that. Roll call. Shipman?
Yes.
I guess I need a motion, Rhonda, don't I? Let's get a motion in a second on that.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
All right, now roll call. Let's go. Shipman?
Yes.
Francis?
Yes.
McKay?
Yes.
Vogel?
Yes.
Roden?
I'm thinking. Yes.
All right, that adjourns the meeting. Thank you, everyone, for participating.
I do have one comment. I have enjoyed serving on the board with everybody.
We've
enjoyed you, Mike. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks,
I appreciate
Mike.
you being here.
All right. Well, again, thanks everybody for participating in tonight's meeting. I know this is unusual. Hopefully we can get back on track in the following months, but you guys enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you, Taylor.
All right.